Thanks, John.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. I'd forgotten we'd met, Herb.
Well, we met one time, but not here.
Where, in Ottawa?
No?
Monique Bejan, the Minister of Health, sometimes appears like a saint in shining armour if saints appear in shining armour, because she's obviously mad at any provincial government that uses deterrent fees, charges premiums, extra bills, and all the rest of it. And she's threatening that she'll deduct that amount of money from the federal grants of Medicare. Here is Herb Breau. How closely are you associated with Monique on this business? Are you a spokesman for her?
Well, to some extent, not officially, but I've been involved with her within the Liberal caucus. And I was chairman of a task force, a parliamentary task force in '81 on fiscal arrangements, where we suggested just about the same thing.
So you're a Liberal from Gloucester, New Brunswick?
That's right.
And we have a government in Victoria that wants to give out numbers, to ration the numbers of doctors. And if they don't get a number, they won't be able to operate. And we charge premiums, and there are a lot of doctors who want to extra bill. Are we a very bad bunch of people on the West Coast?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say you're necessarily a bad bunch. It's just that some people ideologically would rather have a health system that would provide for more private sources of funding. And a lot of other people in the country think that that's not a good thing to do.
Spell out the threat from the Liberals in the Canada Health Act.
Well, it seems
or
to me...
the promise, whatever it is.
It seems to me that there are two sides to this issue. One is the social and human side, the extent to which you want to take risks in the future, right now and in the future, towards the accessibility to health care and the universality and comprehensiveness of health care. To what extent do you want to risk socially that people will be restricted in getting the best health care possible by their financial means?
Don't give me the philosophy. Give me your plan. What is it you want us not to do?
Oh, we want provincial governments to do away with user fees.
All user fees?
All user fees.
Even $2 or $4 for the emergency?
Yes, unless they are for chronic care where people really don't have to pay for room and board anymore.
Or where they take their pension checks, less a little.
That's right, that's right. And we want provinces to encourage doctors to stop extra billing. And if
to encourage or to ban it?
We want. Well, it's up to them. They can either do it through legislation. By banning, you mean legislation? They can either do it that way, or they can do it through a collective agreement of some kind with the province, with the doctors. As long as there are no extra billing, we're happy. And if they don't, we will estimate the amount of user charges and extra billing that goes on in the particular province, and we will deduct it from the federal payment.
That's fair.
Now we're not suggesting that for premiums. We're suggesting that for user fees and extra billing. Well, the bill is not through the House yet. It's now.
What's the total cost of Medicare across the country?
The total cost of Medicare across the country is about $18 billion.
18 billion. How much do the feds actually pay?
About 50%.
Used to be 50. I believe it's less than 50 now.
No, it's still around 50.
18 billion, you pay 50.
Yes.
So therefore, if we collected, say, 5 million in user fees, you'd deduct that from our check, which we get from Ottawa, into the provincial government. In
British Columbia, it is estimated, there's no extra billing practically no extra billing in British Columbia now. In 1984, we estimate there would be about $34 million in user charges, and we would deduct that from the payment.
You don't care about our premiums, do you?
Well, we do. We'd rather not have premiums because we think premiums...
Why shouldn't there be premiums? Why shouldn't people who can afford premiums not pay premiums?
Because somebody like you or me that makes a high income pays more tax. And we think that the raising of money to pay for health care should be based on the capacity to pay, not on the frequency of you being ill. Are you going to a hospital? You would
like to see premiums wiped out too, and heavier taxes levied on those that can afford to pay for the whole thing.
Well, normally that's how the taxation system works. He who earns more pays more. Now, we're not suggesting we can do much about premiums because premiums are a lesser of two evils, or a lesser of three evils. They're not as bad as user charges because at least it's a one-time payment or one payment a year, whatever the system is. User charges is a lot worse than extra billing because a sick person has to pay every time he or she goes.
How much of this can we afford to continue, even if you're all agreed, to fund the incredible demand for sophisticated health care across the country. Everybody wants a CAT scan, everybody wants a body scan, everybody wants every conceivable test there ever is. Is it not time we had some kind of deterrent on somebody? Because the doctors won't deter themselves, because as you well know, the doctors are the wealthiest socialists in the country.
Yes.
Would you agree to that?
That
the doctors are in effect the wealthiest socialists in the country.
Well, I wouldn't want to get involved in that kind of thing.
Why not?
I'd rather leave that to you, because I'm not so sure that all of them. You see, the spokesman for the doctors.
I had a chiropractor on the other day who bills $500,000 a year for a one-man operation.
Yes, but
200,000.
Despite the spokesman from the medical profession, you find that only 2% in the country of doctors' incomes come from extra billing. There are very few doctors who extra bill.
What about doctors' incomes themselves? In British Columbia, they've gone from 300 million in 79 to 730 million in 83.
Yes, that's why I was explaining to you a while ago the two sides to this thing. One is the social and human side, which you call the philosophy. The other one is the practical advantages of doing away. Well, the practical advantages of the approach of Monique Bégin, which I support, to do away with leakages in the system where more money can come in uncontrolled, fragmented sources of funding. The beauty of the Canadian system now, while there's a danger of abuse or misuse, as you indicated, the beauty of the system is that it is publicly controlled, sole source funding, where somebody on behalf of the public makes a decision about the amount of money that goes in the system. Doctors don't like that, and some provincial governments don't like that because they don't want that control. They'd rather have a fragmented sourcing of funds, so that you and I wouldn't have anything to say about it.
So you don't care how much we raise as long as we raise it in non-fragmented fashion.
That's right, and that everybody pays based on his or her capacity to pay. That's a very, very well-known liberal principle.
Who controls the feather bedding or the overuse of the system?
In some cases, doctors. In some cases, hospital administrators. In some cases, provincial governments.
Don't you think it's an octopus that's going to choke us?
Well, there's a danger, but you see the beauty of our approach and of the health system or the funding of health system in Canada is that there is a continuous pressure to spend less. In the United States, for example, they're spending 2% more of their GNP on health because they don't have that kind of control.
And they've also got much higher charges in many ways.
Of course, because there's no
Blood,
control.
for instance.
If you're ill and you go see a doctor, you're not necessarily in very good shape to negotiate a fee.
No.
But if your provincial government negotiates a fee for your yearly, that can be a tougher bargaining session.
Yeah, it's more efficient, I suppose. But your position is quite clear. Any province, when does this Canada Health Act get passed?
We hope before April 1st.
Because Mulroney supports it, doesn't he?
He supports the principle. He has said now the Conservatives in the committee are trying to find all sorts of ways and attacking witnesses that agree with the bill. But I think that they've read the polls and they know that the Canadian people want this, and like most liberal policies, this is a good one, and they're going to support it.
What do the polls also show? The other polls.
The polls
that
show
we don't
that
want you.
No, the polls show that in the last 6 months, the trend is that the Conservatives are coming down and we're going up.
You got to be joking.
But it's a fact.
You're down a bit too, Barbie.
It's a fact. I mean, we're down, but we're coming up. We've been down before, don't forget.
You're gone this time.
No.
No, you couldn't be elected dog catcher here.
We've been, well, I'm not running here, but I wish I was.
Well. Yeah.
I wish I was. But we are going up. We've been down before, and
You're
we'll make it
suggesting
again.
you might win the next election.
We're going to win the next election.
Oh my God. After the break. I don't know. It worries me. We have an overproduction of doctors, and social credit apparently isn't going to cut them down. We're up to 130 medical graduates this year. We're apparently going to ration billing numbers. Does Monique and does Herb Breau approve of that? An overproduction of doctors for the most heavily doctored part of Canada?
One of the things we've got to do in this country is to tackle the issue of medical students enrollment.
We don't tackle it. Give me an answer. Should we cut back on them?
Yes, I think we should cut back on them, or we should cut back on, you know, some economists, respected economists have suggested that we have 2 medical schools extra in this country, that we could do with 2 medical schools less than we are.
And we could use highly trained nurses for many procedures presently done by doctors.
Yes, our problem is that the distribution of physician resources is bad. We have a problem, in the large cities you have a lot of doctors and specialists, and in the outlying areas you don't have as many. That's
Should we be able to move doctors to a place where they're needed? Direction of doctors?
I think we should have incentives to, I don't think we should
Let's
do it by
try the
coercion.
calls. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. So I've got a question about the cost of control. I would like to know why, when we go to the doctors, we don't have to sign a bill. There's no control on the doctor's billing.
Okay.
Yes, well, some provinces, I'm told, do have some controls, and I think they should have. It seems to me that the taxpayer, when he's a user and somebody is paying for him, should know.
Well, let me tell you, in BC, we used to get it on a 3-monthly basis, but it was too expensive, and now they rely on the patterns of practice to catch doctors overdoing things.
Yeah, well, I'm told that in Quebec they have a pretty efficient auditing system where they check with the patients after the fact to make sure that the taxpayer agrees with what has been charged.
Isn't that where the stadium's falling down?
Is it falling down?
Big cracks in it.
Is that right? Well,
Yeah.
it's still a beautiful stadium, and
Oh,
we have a nice baseball team.
Not
there.
as nice as ours.
Well, you don't have a baseball team yet.
We'll
Yeah.
get one.
You're going to get one, and I'll support it.
And ours only cost $128 million. And it's a beauty. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. You speak of the social and human side of universality. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes?
All right. Now, this means that anybody can go to a doctor now or go into a hospital at no cost whatsoever.
More or less.
Well, just a second. You pay as a taxpayer.
All right. I realize that. However, they do that in England too, do they not?
I believe so.
All right. Now, how social and how human, that being the case, can universality be when in England, if you're over age 55, you are denied chemodialysis?
Ma'am, we're not talking about the budget system. You're totally off the topic. You're not making any sense. I cut you off. Go ahead, please. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was wondering if the Liberal government does come into power again, will they be increasing the amount of nurses on some floors in some hospitals?
Sir, the federal government has no control over the staffing of hospitals under provincial rule.
That's right. All we can do is we can
All
have...
you can do is supply money.
Well, we can have incentives to encourage provinces to do that.
Go ahead from Prince George.
Yeah, good morning. You were talking about $4 hospital charges. Well, it's now $10 when you go into an emergency, and if you don't have the money when you arrive there, they charge you another $5 to bill you, so now you cost $15.
Which hospital are you talking about?
Prince George General.
Well,
Did it happen to you?
It happened to me last week. Twice we went in. My son hurt himself wrestling while he was for the Olympic team, and it cost us $15, and then it cost me another $15.
Well, you see, there's a good example.
Another $15 to get the cast off.
Just a minute. The rate was $10 because you didn't have the money with you to give them an extra $5?
Yeah.
$15.
10
The hospital charge here is emergency is $10 according to my notes.
Right.
But that's what we want to stop. That's what the federal Liberal government wants to stop with the Canada Health Act. We want these user charges to do away with.
Get zapped for being poor or being unemployed.
That's right.
I'm
Well,
afraid you're right in that one, old chap. 100% right.
You see, when I talk about the risk, you're right. Mr. Webster was saying a while ago that there can be misuse. I agree. It's all a question of how much you want to risk, the function of the risk in society of having a person like the caller having his son hurt, and if he happens to be unemployed, that his son can be hurt for the rest of his life because maybe he didn't have the money that
There is
day.
not a hospital in British Columbia that would dare to refuse treatment because you didn't have the $10 with
That's
you.
not the issue. The issue is that
Now
because...
they're gonna. I asked them if I couldn't pay the bill, what they're going to do, and they said, well, we'll send the bill collector after you.
Yeah, but let alone that question, the danger is that that father may not go to the hospital because he thinks he has to pay $10. That's the danger.
A very good point to demonstrate your case right at the very end of the program. I'm grateful to the presence here this morning of Herr Breau, health proponent of Monique's bill, Liberal MP from Gloucester, Nova Scotia. It seems a very nice
Brunswick.
guy.
New Brunswick.
New Brunswick. I've done it again. Thank you, Herr. Send
you.
Monique around soon, will you?
Sure, she was here not long ago.
Yeah, but she wouldn't come on the program.
Well, I'll recommend that she
Yeah,
comes.
nag. I'll be back after the break. Pez is supposed to be here tomorrow morning. Maybe he won't make it. Pierre Debaney off the top on the fisheries problems in BC. He's the minister at 9 a.m. precisely.